Going into the 2020 season, many Bears fans and football pundits alike were looking forward to seeing how Roquan Smith would perform in his third year as a pro. Selected with the 8th overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, Smith had high expectations placed on him coming out of Georgia, and through his first two seasons, the prospect of him being worthy of that high of a selection wasn't looking too promising. That has completely changed in 2020 though, as Smith has taken a leap forward as a young linebacker quietly playing at a borderline elite level. Through 9 games, Smith currently ranks first in the NFL in solo tackles and has already matched his previous career high in passes defended, making impactful plays both against the pass and the run. For this episode of the Film Room, I take a look at the tape to show where Smith has improved, how he compares to other linebackers in the NFL, and what it means for him and the Bears moving forward into the future. The biggest growth that we needed to see out of Smith this season was in pass coverage. In the modern-day pass-happy NFL, where everything is spread out, the era of the traditional thumping linebacker is over and has been replaced by smaller backers that can make plays sideline to sideline and handle a variety of different coverage responsibilities. Think Bobby Wagner, Deion Jones, and even Fred Warner. While Smith had that type of profile coming out of Georgia, his performance in this area of the game was a bit mixed, to put it kindly. In his first 2 seasons, Smith struggled in man coverage at times, adapting to the size and physicality of tight ends, as well as the shiftiness of running backs in the NFL. The speed of the game in general was something that took time for Smith to get used to, with many reps where you can visibly see Smith hesitating to get to his mark as opposed to just attacking the offense. This is a big reason why Vic Fangio, and to a lesser extent Chuck Pagano, would take Smith off the field in obvious passing situations. Needless to say, you don't take a linebacker 8th overall just to play 2 downs. In year 3, that script has completely flipped. The game has slowed down for Smith, and instead of being taken off the field on key downs, Smith is the established alpha of the Bears linebacking room, playing all the snaps on defense. Smith has emerged as one of the Bears' most reliable coverage players, which is saying a lot considering that he plays on a defense already featuring all-pro talents such as Eddie Jackson and Kyle Fuller, as well as a stud rookie cornerback, Jalen Johnson. One of the biggest examples of this is how Smith consistently blankets running backs underneath. When the Bears go to man coverage, there is simply no good outcome for the quarterback if he tries to go to his checkdown option. Smith is simply too fast to allow running backs to get open whatsoever, especially on routes that are going to the flat. The exciting thing about this is that this dominance in coverage is starting to extend to option routes and other common passing concepts seen with running backs out of the backfield. The one play that really stands out for Smith in that regard came in the Saints game, where he was matched up against one of the best receiving backs in the NFL, Alvin Kamara. On a 2nd and 10 play, Kamara is running an option route where he has the flexibility to run outside or inside based on how the defense plays him. Kamara has been killing defenses all year on these type of routes, with one example coming earlier in the game when a miscommunication in coverage led to a huge play. That wasn't the case when matched up on Smith, however. We see at the snap that Roquan immediately shades to the outside in preparation for Kamara continuing to the flat. As Kamara works his way up the field and cuts towards the middle, Smith quickly closes on him upon the catch to limit the play to just a 5-yard gain and force a 3rd down. Smith has also busted numerous screenplays this season as well, showing off the rare instincts and explosiveness that had scouts buzzing about his potential while in college. My favorite play that showcases this was in the Colts game. Upon the snap, Smith immediately recognizes that the screen is coming and attacks downhill. Once the Colts running back catches the pass, Smith is right there and blows him up to create a 6-yard loss on 1st down. Where Smith's potential really shines and gets intriguing is how he's able to hold up against other pass-catching weapons besides running backs. While Smith often struggled to handle the physicality of tight end at times earlier in his career, that really hasn't shown up in 2020. Smith has taken away routes from tight ends underneath at a consistent rate, and most of his pass deflections have come from jumping stick and option routes. What's even more intriguing is that Smith has even started to do this against wide receivers. The biggest example of this came in the Carolina Panthers game, where Roquan Smith is matched up against premier receiver for the Panthers, DJ Moore. With the Panthers driving in the red zone, the Bears are running a variation of a cover 4 match concept with a 4-man rush. Here's how it works. As opposed to regular zone, where defenders generally just play an area and key on the quarterback, match zones require defenders essentially to man up against the first wide receiver that enters his zone. With the Panthers lined up 5 wide, the matchups go as follows. Cornerbacks Jalen Johnson and Kyle Fuller on the outside match up against the outside receivers. At the bottom of the screen, because there are 3 wide receivers on that side, Buster Screen has the number 2 receiver, while Danny Trevathan has the number 3 receiver, but will pass that off to Eddie Jackson at safety should the receiver go vertical. When it comes to Roquan, his assignment is wide receiver DJ Moore. If Moore goes vertical, Smith passes him off to safety Deshaun Gibson. If Moore goes underneath, Smith is essentially responsible for him in man-to-man coverage. The Panthers are running a concept meant to exploit this with 4 vertical routes and Moore running a crosser underneath while isolated against the linebackers. Against any normal linebacker, this would easily work for Moore, who ran a 4.440 at the combine to get wide open and gash the Bears with yards after the catch. Here's the thing though, Smith isn't a normal linebacker. We see before the snap that Smith is already lined up with an inside shade, anticipating the inside route. After the snap, Smith immediately blankets Moore and stays within the entire way, giving quarterback Teddy Bridgewater nowhere to throw the ball, forcing him to scramble before the pass rush gets to him in the backfield. On top of the perfect coverage, Smith peels off just in time to limit Bridgewater's scramble to minimum yardage. Just a fantastic play all around. While Smith absolutely impresses on film, he also stands out when compared to other linebackers across the league when it comes to the analytics. When looking at linebackers that have been targeted at least 20 times this season, Smith ranks 5th in passer rating allowed, 2nd in yards per target, and 1st in yards per completion giving up, according to Pro Football Reference. To put this all into perspective, when looking at the film and analytics combined, after being relatively mediocre as a coverage player early in his career, it can be seen that Smith is starting to emerge as one of the elite coverage linebackers in the NFL, which has to be the most positive development from this year. But that development extends to the run game as well. Now, let's make one thing clear. Smith is never going to be your traditional Mike bagger who can take on offensive linemen at the point of attack. And that's okay. Listed at just 6 feet, 230 pounds, Smith doesn't stand out in terms of his size and length, which we've seen from other linebackers in the past, like a Brian Urlacher type. So yes, Smith struggles to take on blocks at the point of attack, which occasionally leads to big gains as a result. But here's the thing, that should have been expected anyway. Smith is built to play the typical modern-day weak side linebacker, otherwise known as the will backer in many schemes. The job of the will backer is to scrape over the top in the run game to make plays sideline to sideline. It's on the defensive line and the strong side linebacker then to take on blocks for Smith so that he is kept clean and can do his thing. As long as they're doing their job, Smith is going to do his at a high level. So far in 2020, this aspect of Roquan's game has been a huge asset to the Bears' run defense. Besides making plays sideline to sideline, we're starting to see Smith use his speed and instincts to attack downhill and make more plays in the backfield as well. Smith flashed this at times during his first 2 years, but was never a consistent playmaker in that regard. Going into 2020, Smith only had 13 career tackles for loss, for reference. 9 games into this season, he's almost matched that with 12, currently ranking second in the NFL amongst all defensive players and first among off-ball linebackers. These improvements in his game complement what we already know Smith was great at, blitzing. Smith's first play as a Bear was a sack, and through his first 2 years, he accumulated 7 sacks in total, a great start to his career. Against the Titans, Smith finally got his first sack of 2020. On this play here, Smith disguises his intentions well before the snap, not moving until the ball is in play. Once the play starts, Smith explodes through the gap created by the pass rush, gives the running back in protection a classic Ole move, and gives Ryan Tannehill no chance to make a play, smothering him in the backfield. Whether it be against the pass, the run, or blitzing, there is no question that Roquan Smith is playing at his absolute best so far as a Bear. After a half season of borderline elite play from the former number 8 overall pick, the Bears' decision on whether to extend Smith's 5th-year option is becoming easier and easier to make. The Bears may be tight on cap space in the near future, but they can't afford to let one of the premier young talents on their franchise go. At 23 years old, Smith has many years of high-level play left and should be a staple of the Bears' defense for a long time to come. From Butkus to Singletary to Urlacher, the Bears have a fabled history of dominant linebackers. Time will tell whether Smith reaches the heights of those legends, but if he can continue to play like this, there is no doubt that he'll continue the Bears' tradition of always having a monster in the middle.